The cargo ship floated quietly through space. Inside, Jake Morrison checked his equipment one more time. He was alone, which was normal for this kind of job. Mining companies didn't like to pay for extra crew when one person could handle the mineral scanning work. Jake was 28 years old and had been doing this job for 3 years. He came from Texas back on Earth, but he had spent most of his adult life in space. The work was boring most days. He would fly to an asteroid, scan it for valuable minerals, mark the location if he found anything good, and move on to the next one. Today seemed like another boring day. Jake sipped his coffee and looked at his screens. The asteroid in front of him showed traces of platinum. Not a huge amount, but enough to mark for the mining crews. He started typing his report when, suddenly all his screens went black. "What the hell?" Jake muttered. He tapped the screens, but nothing happened. The emergency power should have kicked in by now. He reached for his radio to call the nearest station, but it was dead too. Then he felt it. The ship was moving, but he wasn't controlling it. Through the window, he saw a blue light surrounding his small vessel. His ship was being pulled toward something huge. Jake had heard stories about this. Pirates sometimes used tractor beams to catch ships, but this felt different. The blue light was too advanced, too smooth. The huge ship that appeared from behind. The asteroid didn't look like anything humans had built. It was long and sleek, with a surface that seemed to shift between silver and purple. Jake had never seen anything like it, but he knew what it meant. First contact. And not the friendly kind. Commander Vexlar stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the small human vessel being pulled into the docking bay. He had 4 eyes, like all Zalathi, and each one showed him different information about his prize. One eye watched the ship itself. Another monitored the energy readings. The third kept track of his crew's positions. The fourth watched for any other human ships that might come to help. One human life sign confirmed, his science officer reported. The creature appears to be conscious. Good, Vexler said. His voice sounded like grinding metal to human ears, but among his people it was considered quite pleasant. Prepare the capture team. Full environmental suits. We don't know what diseases this Deathworlder might carry. The term Deathworlder wasn't an insult. It was a scientific classification. Earth was a Class 12 death world, one of only 3 known to exist in the galaxy. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with oxygen, which most species found toxic at those levels. Water fell from the sky as acid rain. The temperature changed wildly between day and night. Massive storms could appear from nowhere. And the creatures that lived there? They were the stuff of nightmares. Humans had only been in space for a short time, by galactic standards. Most species had avoided them, trading only through intermediaries. But Vexlar was ambitious. Bringing back a live human would make him famous. Scientists across the galaxy would pay fortunes to study a real Deathworlder. In the docking bay, Jake felt his ship settle onto the deck. He could see aliens moving outside through his window. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with thin bodies that seemed to bend in too many places. They wore thick suits that looked like armor. Jake knew he couldn't fight his way out. He didn't even have a weapon. Mining ships didn't carry them, so he did the only thing he could do. He stood by the airlock and waited. The aliens forced the door open. 6 of them entered, moving carefully, weapons pointed at him. Jake raised his hands slowly. "I'm not going to fight," he said. He knew they probably couldn't understand him, but he hoped his body language was clear enough. One of the aliens, with red marks on its suit that probably meant rank, pulled out a device. It made clicking sounds, then spoke in broken English. "Human. You are captured. You come with us. No resistance, no pain." Jake nodded. "Okay. But you should know. Someone will come looking for me." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "No one knows where you are, human. You are very far from your territory." They put restraints on Jake's wrists. The metal was strange, warm to the touch and somehow soft but unbreakable. They led him through their ship, which was bigger than Jake had imagined. The corridors were wide and tall, with curved walls that glowed with a soft light. The gravity felt wrong, lighter than Earth but heavier than his ship's artificial gravity. They passed other aliens, all of whom stopped to stare. Some backed away quickly. Others pressed themselves against the walls. Jake realized they were afraid of him. That was interesting. The cell they put him in was large, maybe 30 feet square. The walls were clear, probably some kind of advanced glass or plastic. There was a bed that looked almost normal, a chair, a table, and a door that he assumed led to a bathroom. The air smelled different, but was breathable. Squad leader Crixon watched the human explore his cell. The creature moved slowly, carefully, touching things. It seemed calm, too calm. Crixon had captured many beings over his career, and they usually panicked, cried, or tried to escape. The human just sat on the bed and looked around. "Sir," Crixon said to Commander Vexlar, who had come to observe, "the human is not reacting as expected." "What do you mean?" "It shows no fear. It threatened that others would come for it. It seems to be studying the cell rather than panicking." Vexlar's four eyes focused on the human. "It's probably in shock. Deathworlders might be dangerous on their own planet, but here, it's helpless. Continue observation. The scientists will want detailed behavioral notes." Jake sat on the bed and forced himself to stay calm. He knew panicking wouldn't help. Instead, he started memorizing everything. The door mechanism had a 2-second delay. The walls vibrated slightly, which meant they were powered. The guards changed positions every hour. There were cameras in 3 corners, but not the 4th. He was a prisoner, yes, but he was also a human. And these aliens had no idea what that really meant. Back on the bridge, Vexlar was already planning. The human would be taken to the research station at Zelath Prime. There, the Empire's best scientists would study it. They would learn the secrets of Deathworld survival. Perhaps they could even find the human's weaknesses in case the species ever became a threat. "Set course for home," he ordered. "Maximum speed. I want to deliver our prize before anyone knows. It's missing." The ship turned away from the asteroid belt and jumped to faster than light speed. Jake felt the change in vibration through the floor. They were leaving human space. He was truly alone now, but Jake didn't despair. He had read the reports about Earth that alien traders had shared. He knew what they thought of humans. They saw Earth's environment as hostile, barely survivable. They thought humans must be savage, brutal creatures to live in such a place. They were wrong about so much. Yes, Earth was dangerous by their standards. But humans didn't survive by being the strongest or the toughest. They survived by being smart, by working together, by adapting to anything. Jake lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. Let them think he was weak. Let them think he was helpless. He would wait. He would watch. He would learn. And when the time was right, he would show them exactly why you should never trap a Deathworlder. The research station at Zelath Prime was the pride of the Empire. It floated in space like a giant crystal flower, with sections that spun slowly to create different levels of artificial gravity. Scientists from 50 different worlds worked here, studying everything from black holes to microscopic life forms. But nothing had ever created as much excitement as the arrival of the human. Jake had been moved from the ship to the station in a sealed container. He couldn't see out, but he could feel the movement, the changes in pressure and gravity. When the container finally opened, he found himself in a new cell. This one was bigger and nicer than the one on the ship. The walls were still transparent, but the furniture looked more comfortable. There was even what looked like a small kitchen area. Dr. Irixtel stood outside the cell studying him. She was different from the soldiers who had captured him, shorter with skin that changed color slightly when she moved. Her 4 eyes blinked in sequence as she watched him explore the space. "Hello?" she said through a speaker. Her English was much better than the soldiers had been. "I am Dr. Irixtel. I will be studying you during your stay here. Are you comfortable?" Jake looked at her for a long moment. "I'm in a cage. How comfortable would you be?" "I understand your frustration. But please know we mean you no harm. We simply wish to learn about your species." "You could have just asked," Jake said. Humans are usually happy to talk about ourselves. The doctor's skin shifted to what might have been the equivalent of a blush. Your governments have been protective. They don't allow direct contact. This was the only way. Jake sat down in one of the chairs. It creaked under his weight but held. So what now? You run tests on me? Nothing invasive, HFY assured him. We have already learned much from our scans. Your bone density is 3 times that of most species. Your muscle fibers are incredibly efficient. You have redundant organs that can take over if the primary ones fail. Fascinating. Over the next few days, Jake submitted to various tests. They scanned him with machines that hummed and glowed. They tested his reflexes, his strength, his endurance. They were especially interested in his ability to heal. When he accidentally cut his finger on a food container, 3 scientists rushed to observe as the wound closed within days. Remarkable, HFY said, watching the recording of his healing skin. Most species would need medical intervention for such an injury. It's just a small cut, Jake said. Humans heal from much worse all the time. The scientists exchanged looks that Jake was learning to recognize as nervousness. On the 10th day, everything changed. Jake was eating breakfast when the door to his cell opened and another human walked in. She was small with black hair and tired eyes. She wore the same kind of basic clothes Jake had been given. She looked at him for a moment, then smiled. I'm Lisa Chen, she said. I guess you're my new roommate. Jake stood up quickly. You're human. How long have you been here? 2 weeks. They grabbed me from a botany research station near Neptune. She sat down heavily in one of the chairs. They think putting us together will make us easier to study. Social dynamics or something. Jake looked at the watching scientists. You kidnapped a botanist? She studies plants. How dangerous did you think she would be? Lisa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. They don't know much about humans, Jake. Can I call you Jake? I heard them say your name. They think we're all the same. Dangerous predators from a death world. They spent the day talking, careful to speak in English when they didn't want to be understood clearly. But Lisa taught him something interesting. The translation devices the aliens used had trouble with certain Earth languages. When she spoke to him in Mandarin, the machine stuttered and gave up. They designed them for simple language structures, she explained in Mandarin. Earth languages are too complex, too many meanings for the same sounds. This was useful information. They could plan without being understood. Lisa told him about her capture. She had been alone on the station, taking samples from the hydroponics bay when the aliens appeared. They had been more prepared for her, using some kind of gas to knock her out. She woke up here. They're scared of us, she said. Have you noticed? They never come within 3 meters. They think we might attack at any moment. Are they wrong? Jake asked. Lisa smiled. I'm a botanist. I study plants, but I also grew up in California doing martial arts. My parents wanted me to be able to defend myself. Every human knows how to fight a little bit. It's part of growing up on Earth. The next few days were different with Lisa there. The scientists seemed pleased that they were getting along. They brought better food, Earth food that must have cost a fortune to import. They set up exercise equipment after Lisa explained that humans needed physical activity to stay healthy. Jake started working out, just basic exercises. Push-ups, sit-ups, using the pull-up bar they had installed. The scientists watched in fascination. His muscles moved under his skin in ways that disturbed them. He could do 100 push-ups without breathing hard. When he did pull-ups, his entire body weight hung from his arms, something most aliens couldn't imagine doing. Lisa joined him, adding yoga and flexibility training. She could bend her body in ways that made the watching aliens step back from the glass. The human spine, they learned, was incredibly flexible, despite also being strong enough to support their dense bodies. They're taking notes, Lisa observed, during one session. Look at them. They're terrified and fascinated at the same time. Dr. HFY was indeed taking extensive notes. These humans were nothing like the savage beasts she had expected. They were intelligent, social, even funny. Jake had a dry sense of humor that took her a while to understand. Lisa sang sometimes, beautiful melodies that drew crowds of scientists to listen. But they were also terrifying. The casual strength they displayed, the way they moved like predators even when relaxed, the way their eyes tracked everything. When the equipment malfunction caused a loud bang, both humans had instantly dropped into defensive positions, ready to fight or flee. It happened so fast the cameras almost missed it. They're not just survivors, Irixtel told her colleagues. They're apex predators who learned to be civilized. But the predator is still there, just under the surface. Her assistant, a nervous creature from a prey species, shuddered. Should we be keeping them here? What if they escape? The containment field is rated for asteroid impacts, Rixtel assured him. They're strong, but not that strong. In their cell, Jake and Lisa sat together, speaking quietly in Mandarin. They have no idea, Lisa said. They think this field could hold us. Could it? Jake asked. Lisa smiled. I'm a botanist, remember? I know chemistry, the food they're giving us. I can make some interesting compounds from it. Nothing dangerous, just corrosive. Give me a few more days. Jake nodded. We need to wait anyway. See how many others they bring. Learn more about this place. You think they'll bring more humans? If I were them, I would. They want to study us. 2 subjects aren't enough for real science. Lisa looked at the watching aliens. When we get out of here, they're going to tell stories about us. Good, Jake said. Maybe next time they'll think twice before kidnapping humans. Outside the cell, Dr. Irixtel was preparing for the next phase of her research. The physical data was impressive, but she wanted to understand human psychology. How did they think? What motivated them? What were they afraid of? She was about to learn that the last question was the wrong one to ask. The question shouldn't be what humans were afraid of. It should be what everyone else should be afraid of when it came to humans. The grand amphitheater of the research station could hold 1,000 beings. Today it was packed. Scientists, diplomats, military officials, and wealthy collectors had all come to see the Deathworlders. Some had traveled for weeks across the galaxy for this moment. Jake and Lisa stood in their containment unit, which had been moved to the center of the stage. The energy field around them hummed with power, creating a slight blue tint to everything. They had been told to wear the special suits provided, white garments that looked like a cross between a jumpsuit and a spacesuit. Ladies and gentle beings, Commander Vexler announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Today marks a historic moment for the Zalathi Empire, and indeed for all civilized space. You are about to witness living creatures from the most hostile planet known to exist. The crowd murmured with excitement and fear. Many of them had moved to seats farther from the stage, just to be safe. Dr. Irixtel took over the presentation. A huge hologram appeared above the stage, showing Earth in all its terrifying glory. This is Earth, she began. Surface gravity nearly twice the galactic average. Atmospheric oxygen content at 21%, toxic to 90% of known species. Surface water coverage of 70%, but this water falls from the sky as acid rain. The image changed, showing a hurricane from space. Several audience members gasped. Storms on Earth can reach wind speeds of 300 kilometers per hour. The planet experiences earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis regularly. The temperature can range from -90 to +60 degrees Celsius, sometimes varying by 40 degrees in a single day. Now the images showed Earth's life forms, a lion bringing down a zebra, a shark attacking a seal, a snake striking at prey. And these are just some of the predators humans share their world with. Yet somehow humans not only survived but became the dominant species. How? She gestured to Jake and Lisa. Through evolution, humans developed incredible capabilities. Their bodies can endure damage that would kill any of us instantly. They can survive for weeks without food, days without water. They can run for hours without stopping. A hunting technique called persistence hunting. Jake and Lisa exchanged glances. The doctor was making them sound like monsters. But maybe that was the point. For today's demonstration, Irixtel continued, our subjects have agreed to show you some basic human physical activities. Jake stepped forward. "What would you like to see?" he asked, his voice carrying through the translator. A brave scientist in the front row raised a tentacle. "Is it true humans can lift many times their own body weight?" Jake looked around the containment unit. There was a bench press that had been set up for their exercises. He walked over to it and started adding weights. The aliens watched as he loaded it with what they considered an impossible amount. He lay down and lifted the bar. Once, twice, 10 times. His breathing stayed steady. The weight that would crush most of the audience felt manageable to him. "This is about average for a human male who works out," Jake said, setting the bar back. "Lisa, you want to show them something?" Lisa smiled. She had been a gymnast in high school before she became interested in plants. She started with simple stretches, but to the aliens, it looked like she was dislocating her joints. She bent backwards until her hands touched the floor behind her feet. She twisted her spine in ways that made several audience members look away. Then she started the real demonstration. Running flips across the small space, handstands that turned into complex maneuvers. She grabbed the pull-up bar and spun around, it like it was nothing. Her entire body held horizontal by just her arm strength. The crowd was silent. Some were recording everything. Others seemed frozen in fear. "Now," Jake said, "you wanted to see what makes humans dangerous? It's not our strength." He picked up one of the metal chairs in the containment unit. It was made of an alloy that the Zalathi considered very strong. Jake gripped it with both hands and began to bend it. The metal screamed as it twisted. In seconds, he had turned it into a pretzel shape. The sound that went through the crowd was universal. Fear. "But that's still not what makes us dangerous," Jake continued. He tapped his head. "It's this. Humans are smart. We problem solve. We work together. We learn and adapt. That's how we conquered Earth." Lisa added, "Every human child plays games that teach strategy and tactics. We tell stories about overcoming impossible odds. We celebrate cleverness as much as strength. Your containment field is impressive, but every human looking at it is already thinking about how to get through it." Dr. Urixtel tried to regain control of the presentation. "As you can see, humans are remarkable specimens, but they are contained. The field you see is rated for—" She was interrupted by an alarm, not from the containment unit, but from the station itself. Another ship had arrived. Another human had been captured. They brought her in during the presentation, thinking it would add to the spectacle. Amy Walker was still in her medical uniform, blood on her sleeves from treating patients when she was taken. She looked tired, angry, and completely unafraid. "3 Deathworlders," Vexler announced. "The Empire's collection grows." Amy was put into the containment unit with Jake and Lisa. She looked at them, then at the crowd of aliens. "Are you two okay?" she asked, ignoring the hundreds of eyes watching her. "We're fine," Lisa said. "You're a doctor?" "Combat medic. Detroit 3rd Mobile Hospital Unit." Amy looked around the containment unit, then at the energy field. "How long have you been here?" 3 weeks for me," Lisa said. 2 for Jake." Amy nodded, then turned to face the crowd. "You're making a mistake," she said loudly. "I sent a distress signal before you took me. Earth knows we're missing. They'll come looking." The crowd stirred nervously, but Vexlar laughed. "Let them come, they will find nothing. Space is vast and you are very far from home." Amy looked at Jake and Lisa. In English, speaking quickly, she said, "I modified my emergency beacon before they caught me. It got a pulse out on military frequencies. Earth Defense Force knows something happened." Jake kept his face neutral, but inside he felt hope for the first time. "How long until they find us?" "No idea, but they'll be looking." Amy examined the containment field emitter. "This is interesting technology. Medical training includes some engineering. The frequency modulation is simple once you understand it." The presentation continued, but the mood had changed. The crowd was more nervous now. 3 humans together seemed more dangerous than 1 or 2. The way they immediately worked as a team, the way they communicated. It was unsettling. Dr. Urixtel ended the presentation early. The crowd dispersed, many of them hurrying to leave. As the containment unit was moved back to the holding area, Irixtel heard conversations that worried her. 3 of them nearly caused a panic, her assistant said. Perhaps we should separate them. No, Irixtel decided. They're more interesting together. We can learn about their social dynamics. That night, in their cell, the 3 humans sat together and planned. Amy had medical knowledge that included chemistry and biology. Lisa knew plants and their chemical properties. Jake understood mechanical systems from his mining work. The food they give us, Amy said, examining a piece of fruit, contains compounds that could be useful. Lisa, you said you were already working on something. A mild acid. Nothing that would hurt anyone, but it could damage certain metals over time. Amy nodded. I can make it stronger, and if we combine it with some proteins from the meat they give us. How long? Jake asked. Few days. Maybe. We need to be subtle. They're always watching. They looked at the cameras. The aliens thought they were so advanced, so superior. They had no idea that every human was a potential engineer, chemist, and strategist. It came from growing up on a world that constantly tried to kill you. You learn to use everything around you to survive. When we get out, Jake said, we need to make sure this never happens again. Agreed, Amy said. But first, we need to get out. Lisa smiled. Oh, we will. They trapped 3 humans together. That was their biggest mistake. Outside their cell, the night shift guards watched nervously. The humans were talking and occasionally laughing. They seemed happy. That couldn't be right. They were prisoners. Why did they seem like they were the ones in control? One guard turned to another. Do you think the containment field will really hold them? The other guard didn't answer. He was watching the humans carefully move, their furniture around supposedly to make more room, but to his trained eye it looked like they were preparing for something. He reported it to his supervisor, who reported it to security, who told him he was being paranoid. The containment field was perfect. The humans were secured. Nobody noticed the tiny marks on the field emitters where Lisa had been applying her acid during her stretching routines. Nobody noticed Amy palming small amounts of chemicals during her meals. Nobody noticed Jake memorizing every security protocol and guard rotation. The show in the amphitheater had been meant to demonstrate human capabilities, but all it had really done was show the aliens how much they had underestimated their prisoners. The humans weren't just dangerous because they were strong or smart. They were dangerous because they never, ever gave up. The protests started 3 days after the public demonstration. Citizens of Zeloth Prime gathered outside government buildings, holding signs in various languages that all said the same thing. Send the Deathworlders away. Commander Vexillar watched the crowds from his office window. What had started as his greatest triumph was becoming a political nightmare. The news feeds were full of debates about the humans. Some scientists argued they were too valuable to release. The military insisted they were secure, but the public was terrified. Sir, his aide entered the room. The Emperor wants to speak with you. The holo projector activated, and the Emperor's image appeared. He was old, even for a Zelothi, with skin that had faded to almost gray. Vexillar, the Emperor said without greeting, your humans are causing unrest. They are contained, Your Majesty. There is no danger. The danger is not from them escaping. It's from what their presence represents. Half the trade delegations have threatened to leave if we keep them here. They're afraid Earth will retaliate. Earth doesn't even know where they are, Vexillar protested. Are you certain? The female, the medical one, she claimed she sent a signal. Vexillar hesitated. Even if she did, space is vast. They could search for years and never find us. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. You better be right, Commander. If the humans come here because of your actions, it will be on your head. Back. In the research station, Jake, Lisa, and Amy were continuing their preparations. The acid had been working on the containment field emitters for days now. Tiny pits and scratches that wouldn't be noticed unless someone looked very closely. They had also been studying their captors. The Zelothi, they learned, had poor night vision. Their world had 3 suns, so they had never developed the ability to see well in darkness. The emergency lighting in the station was designed for their eyes, not human ones. "Tonight," Amy said quietly in Mandarin, "the compound is ready. When the lights go out, we move." Jake nodded. He had been exercising more intensely the past few days, getting the guards used to him being active at night. They no longer paid close attention when he did his workout routine. Lisa had been equally clever. She had complained about insomnia and asked for herbal tea. The Zalathi had provided it, not knowing she was extracting chemicals from the plants. Combined with Amy's medical knowledge, they had created something interesting. The shift change happened at what the station called midnight. There was a 5-minute window when the old guards left and the new ones settled in. That was their chance. Jake started his exercise routine right on schedule. Push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. The guards glanced at him and then went back to their conversation. They had seen this every night for a week. Lisa was at the small kitchen area, making her tea. She added the special mixture she and Amy had created. When heated, it would create a gas. Not harmful, but it would cause mild confusion and drowsiness. In most species, Amy was sitting by the wall, apparently reading from a datapad the scientists had given her. But she was actually watching the containment field emitter. The acid had done its work. One solid impact should be enough. Jake finished his 100th push-up and stood. This was it. He walked to the kitchen area where Lisa handed him a cup of water. As he drank, Lisa poured her tea mixture onto the heating element. The reaction was immediate. Smoke billowed up, thick and gray. The air filtration system kicked in, but that just spread the gas throughout the section. The guards jumped up, confused. One reached for an alarm, but his movements were already sluggish. The gas was working. Amy moved. She had been a combat medic in some of Earth's worst conflict zones. She knew how to move fast when needed. She grabbed the metal chair Jake had bent during the demonstration and swung it at the containment field emitter. The weakened device shattered in a shower of sparks. The field flickered and died. Jake kicked the door. The metal crumpled like paper under the force. They were out. The guards tried to respond, but the gas was affecting them. One managed to trigger an alarm before slumping against the wall. Red. Lights began flashing throughout the station. "Move," Amy commanded. She had memorized the station layout from the maps on her datapad. "Docking bay is this way." They ran through the corridors. The Zalathi they encountered backed away in terror. 3 Deathworlders loose in the station was their nightmare come true. Most fled rather than try to stop them. A security team appeared ahead, weapons drawn. Jake didn't slow down. Stunner beams designed for normal species hit him in the chest. He felt a tingle, nothing more. He reached the first guard and carefully but firmly disarmed him, bending the weapon into useless metal. "Stay down," Jake advised. "We don't want to hurt anyone." Lisa was handling 2 guards who had tried to flank them. Her martial arts training made it easy. She used their own momentum against them, sending them tumbling into walls. They stayed. Down, dazed but unharmed. Amy was the most efficient. She knew exactly where to apply pressure to make any species unconscious without permanent damage. Guard after guard dropped as she moved through them like water. They reached a security checkpoint. 20 guards in full armor, weapons trained on them. "Stop!" the lead guard shouted. "You cannot escape. Surrender now." Amy stepped forward. "We're leaving. You can try to stop us, and some of you will get hurt. Or you can let us go. And everyone, stay safe. Your choice." The guards hesitated. They had all seen the footage from the corridor cameras. 3 humans had gone through 30 guards without breaking a sweat. Jake picked up a piece of metal plating that had come loose from the wall. He crushed it in his hands like paper. "We really don't want to hurt anyone," he said, "but we're leaving. One way or another." The lead guard's 4 eyes darted between the humans and his team. He made a decision that probably saved lives. "Stand down," he ordered his guards. "Sir?" one protested. "Stand down. Let them pass." The guards parted. The humans walked through, Amy nodding respectfully to the lead guard as she passed. They reached the docking bay to find it in chaos. Ships were trying to leave. crews running in panic. Jake's ship was still there, powered down but intact. "Can you fly it?" Amy asked. "If they haven't damaged it too much?" Jake ran to the controls. The systems were offline, but the backup power was still good. He started the startup sequence. Commander Vexillar arrived with 50 guards. "Stop! You cannot escape. The station's weapons will destroy you before you clear the dock." Lisa looked at him. "No, they won't. Because if you fire on us, you risk damaging the station, and because you're scared of what Earth will do if you kill us." She was right, and Vexillar knew it. The political situation was already bad. 3. Dead humans would mean war. The ship's engines roared to life. Jake had never been so happy to hear that sound. "Also," Amy added, pulling something from her pocket, "I have this." It was a small device, clearly alien technology. Vexillar's eyes went wide. "That's the station's emergency beacon." "Insurance," Amy said. "If anything happens to us, this activates. It will broadcast our location and everything that happened here to every receiver in 10 light years, including Earth's." It was a bluff. Amy had no idea how to work the device. But Vexillar didn't know that. "Everyone back!" Vexillar ordered his guards. "Let them go!" The 3 humans boarded Jake's ship. As the cargo door closed, Jake called out, "Tell your empire this. We could have hurt a lot of people today. We didn't, remember that." The ship lifted off, moving toward the bay doors. They opened, whether by someone's order or Lisa's earlier. Sabotage of the control systems, they never knew. As the ship cleared the station, Jake set course for the nearest human outpost. "Think they'll follow?" "No," Amy said. "They're terrified of us now. They'll let us go and hope we don't come back." Lisa was checking the navigation computer. "We need to send a message to Earth, let them know we're okay." "And tell them what happened," Jake added. "Make sure everyone knows not to trust the Zalathi." Behind them, the research station grew smaller. Inside, Commander Vexillar was already preparing his report. "How do you explain that 3 unarmed humans escaped from the most secure facility in the Empire? How do you explain that they disabled every weapon, bypassed every security measure, and didn't seriously hurt a single person?" Dr. Erixtel stood beside him, watching the human ship disappear into space. "Remarkable," she said quietly. "They could have killed us all," Vexillar said. "Yes, but they didn't. They're not monsters, Commander. They're something much more dangerous." "What's that?" "They're civilized predators. They have all the abilities of their savage ancestors, but they choose when to use them. They could have torn this station apart, but they didn't want to." "What happens when someone makes them want to?" Vexillar shuddered. He thought about Earth, about billions of humans, all with these capabilities. "We must make sure that never happens," the doctor nodded. "I'll recommend immediately returning all human artifacts and sending formal apologies. We must never give them a reason to come here in force." The alarm was still ringing, but nobody was responding to it anymore. The entire station was in shock. The Deathworlders had escaped and everyone was still alive to tell about it. That more than anything terrified them. The human fleet arrived at Zelath Prime 3 days after Jake's ship had escaped. 15 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting no light. They looked like shadows against the stars, predators waiting to strike. Admiral Catherine Price stood on the bridge of the lead ship, looking at the tactical display. The Zalathi defense fleet was scrambling to respond, but they were already too late. The humans had achieved complete tactical surprise. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "the Zalathi Emperor is requesting immediate dialogue." "Put him through." The Emperor appeared on the main screen, his 4 eyes wide with fear. Behind him, Price could see other officials, all looking terrified. "Admiral Price," the Emperor began, his translated voice shaking. "We were just about to contact Earth with our deepest apologies. The 3 humans who were temporarily detained have been released unharmed." "I know," Price said calmly. "We picked them up yesterday. They told us everything." The Emperor's skin changed colors rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. "Then you know they were treated well. They were not harmed." This was all a misunderstanding caused by overzealous researchers. Price leaned forward. You kidnapped 3 Earth citizens. You held them in cages. You displayed them like animals. Explain to me why I shouldn't turn your station into scattered atoms. On the research station, Commander Vexillar watched the human fleet on his screens. The ships weren't moving, weren't charging weapons, but somehow that made them more terrifying. They were just waiting, like predators deciding if prey was worth the effort. Dr. Yurixtel was beside him, her datapad showing readings from the human ships. Commander, their weapon systems. I've never seen anything like this. Those ships could destroy the entire station in seconds. But they're not attacking, Vexillar observed. Why? Back on the human flagship, Jake, Lisa, and Amy stood, behind Admiral Price. They had been debriefed, examined by doctors, and declared physically fine. Psychologically, they were angry but controlled. Admiral, Jake said quietly, they're scared enough. They learned their lesson. Price glanced at him. You were held prisoner for weeks. Don't you want justice? I want them to never do this again, Jake replied. To us or anyone else? Lisa added, they think we're monsters. If we destroy them now, we prove them right. But if we show mercy while also showing strength, they'll fear us more, Amy finished, and spread that fear throughout the galaxy. No one will dare touch a human again. Price considered this. The 3 civilians had been through something terrible, but they were thinking strategically. Perhaps being trapped had taught them something about the power of reputation. Emperor, Price said, turning back to the screen. Here are our terms. First, you will publicly apologize for this incident. Second, you will pay compensation to the 3 humans you kidnapped. Third, you will sign a treaty guaranteeing you will never attempt to capture or harm any human again. Yes, of course, the Emperor agreed quickly. I'm not finished. Fourth, you will share all the research data you collected about humans with us. We want to know exactly what you learned. Fifth, you will spread word throughout the galaxy about what happened here. Make sure every species knows that taking humans is a mistake they can't afford to make. The Emperor's skin rippled. You want us to tell others about our failure? I want you to tell others the truth. That 3 unarmed humans escaped your maximum security facility without killing anyone, despite having every reason to. That Earth's military arrived within days of learning about the kidnapping. That we could destroy you right now, but we're choosing not to. She paused, letting that sink in. We're not the monsters you think we are, Emperor. We're much worse. We're monsters who choose not to be monsters. We have rules, codes, mercy, but push us too far. Take our people, threaten our world, and we'll show you why Earth is classified as a death world. Not because of the environment, but because of what we became to survive it. The treaty was signed within the hour. The compensation was transferred immediately. The research data was handed over, though most of it was things humans already knew about themselves. As the human fleet prepared to leave, they did one more thing. Each ship fired a single warning shot past the research station. The weapon's fire was so precisely controlled that it passed within meters of the station's hull without touching it. The energy readings made every scanner on the station scream warnings. The message was clear. We could have destroyed you whenever we wanted. After the humans left, the galaxy changed. The story spread faster than light itself. The Zelathi told it to save face, claiming they had wisely negotiated with the humans rather than fight. Other species told it as a warning. Within a month, every civilization knew the story of the 3 humans who were trapped and escaped. Jake returned to his mining work, but now alien ships gave him a wide berth. Some sent respectful greetings. Others fled the moment they detected him. He became something of a legend, the human who bent metal with his bare hands and walked through stunner fire. Lisa went back to her botany research, but now she received requests from alien universities wanting to learn about Earth plants. They were terrified of Earth biology but fascinated by it. She became the galaxy's foremost expert on why Earth life was so resilient. Amy continued her work as a combat medic, but the military gave her a commendation and a promotion. She had proven that human medical knowledge included understanding of alien physiology, which made humans even more dangerous. They could heal or harm with equal skill. The research station at Zeloth Prime was quietly converted to other uses. The containment cells were destroyed. Dr. Erixtel published her research, but with a strong warning. Never attempt to contain humans. They were too intelligent, too adaptable, too strong, and most frighteningly, too restrained. When they escaped, they could have left a trail of bodies. They chose not to. That choice, that restraint, was the most terrifying thing of all. A year later, Earth received an unexpected message. It was from a coalition of alien worlds requesting formal diplomatic relations. They wanted treaties, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. They wanted to be friends with the Deathworlders. The message was clear. They would rather have humans as allies than enemies. Jake, Lisa, and Amy were invited to the first diplomatic meeting. They stood as examples of humanity, the three people, who had changed the galaxy's perception of Earth. They were introduced as the humans who escaped Zeloth Prime. "Were you not afraid?" an alien diplomat asked. Jake thought about it. "We were concerned, but humans have a saying, fear is just your brain telling you to pay attention. We paid attention. We learned. We adapted. We escaped." "But you didn't take revenge," another diplomat observed. "You could have destroyed the station." Lisa answered this one. "Revenge would have been easy, but it wouldn't have achieved what we wanted. Now, no one will take humans again, not because they fear our revenge, but because they know we're capable of so much more than violence." Amy added the final thought. "Earth is called a death world because everything there tries to kill you. But humans didn't survive by being the strongest or the meanest. We survived by being smart enough to know when to fight and wise enough to know when not to. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our strength, but our choice in how to use it." The galaxy had learned an important lesson, one that would be passed down through generations. Stories were told in bars and schools, in military academies and science labs. They all had the same moral, the same warning, the same truth that the Zelothi Empire had learned the hard way. Never trap a Deathworlder, not because they'll kill you to escape, but because they might not. They might show you mercy. They might demonstrate restraint. They might leave you alive to spread the word about what humans are really capable of. And that thought, that humans were powerful enough to destroy you but chose not to, was the most terrifying thing in the universe. Somewhere in the asteroid belt, Jake Morrison continued his mineral surveys. His scanners showed an alien research vessel approaching, then quickly changing course when they identified his ship. He smiled and went back to his work, whistling an old Earth tune. The galaxy was a big place, full of wonders and dangers. But everyone now knew one fundamental truth. Humans were both. They were wonderful allies and dangerous enemies. They came from a world that tried to kill them every day, and they had become something unique in response. They had become survivors, who could choose to be merciful, and that, more than any weapon or technology, was why you never ever trapped a Deathworlder.